Did you know that one U.S. president was an avid wrestler, while another kept a pet alligator in the White House? The Oval Office may be a serious duty, but the lives of U.S. presidents are packed with fascinating and quirky facts. The last fact about John F. Kennedy and the moon is going to blow your mind, so make sure to watch the video all the way to the end to catch all the cool stuff. Did you know that George Washington, the very first president, never actually lived in the White House? Construction wasn't completed during his presidency, so he stayed in presidential mansions in New York and Philadelphia. And here's a wild one. Abraham Lincoln, the great emancipator, was a champion wrestler in his youth. Out of approximately 300 matches, he only lost one. He's even cherished in the Wrestling Hall of Fame. Meanwhile, Theodore Roosevelt wasn't just a Rough Rider. He inspired the creation of the teddy bear after refusing to shoot a trapped bear during a hunting trip. Talk about a legacy that's still snuggled by kids today. Did you know Thomas Jefferson was a foodie? He's credited with introducing macaroni and cheese to America after his travels to France. Benjamin Harrison, the 23rd president, was the first to install electricity in the White House. However, he was so afraid of being electrocuted that he wouldn't touch the light switches himself. Next up, let's look at some presidential firsts. Did you know Jimmy Carter was the first president born in a hospital? It's hard to believe, but every president before him was born at home. William Henry Harrison holds the unfortunate record for the shortest presidency in U.S. history. He served just 31 days before succumbing to pneumonia. On the other hand, Franklin D. Roosevelt holds the record for being the longest-serving president, leading the nation through 4 unprecedented terms during the Great Depression and World War II. Theodore Roosevelt was not only the youngest person to assume the presidency at 42, but he was also the first sitting president to leave the country. In 1906, he traveled to Panama to inspect the construction of the Panama Canal, setting a precedent for future presidents to engage in international diplomacy. Did you know that John F. Kennedy was the first Catholic president? His election in 1960 broke religious barriers in the country's highest office. What did presidents do in their downtime? You might be surprised. John Quincy Adams, the 6th President of the United States, enjoyed swimming, and he'd often take a dip in the Potomac River, in the nude. This unconventional habit reportedly shocked many locals. Quincy Adams also kept a pet alligator in the White House, and it was reportedly gifted to him by the Marquis de Lafayette, a French military officer and hero of the American Revolutionary War. Calvin Coolidge had a strange fondness for raccoons. He kept them as pets in the White House, and they even had free reign of the gardens. Talk about unusual companions. Barack Obama, on the other hand, is well known for his love of basketball. He often played pickup games with his staff and even invited professional players to join. His March Madness brackets became an annual tradition that fans loved. And let's not forget Franklin Pierce, who was an excellent horseman and reportedly could stand on a galloping horse, a skill that amazed his contemporaries. At President Andrew Jackson's funeral, his parrot, Polly, had to be removed because it kept swearing loudly. The guests were shocked and surprised. Herbert Hoover and his wife learned Mandarin Chinese during their time in China, using it as a private language to keep their conversations secret. And Lyndon B. Johnson? He had an unusual habit of holding meetings in the bathroom. Johnson believed that multitasking was key to productivity, even in the most unconventional settings. Of course, not all presidential legacies are spotless. Some leaders faced scandals and controversies that shaped public perception. For instance, Warren G. Harding's administration was rocked by the Teapot Dome scandal, one of the most prominent government corruption cases in U.S. history. Richard Nixon's Watergate scandal led to the resignation of a U.S. president, changing the way Americans viewed their leaders. And let's not forget Bill Clinton's impeachment trial, which made headlines around the world. Behind many great presidents were equally impactful first ladies. Eleanor Roosevelt redefined the role, becoming a tireless advocate for human rights and the poor. Jackie Kennedy brought style and cultural sophistication to the White House, famously restoring it to its historic glory. Michelle Obama focused on health and education initiatives, inspiring millions with her Let's Move campaign. Dolly Madison is remembered for saving priceless artifacts, including a portrait of George Washington during the War of 1812. These women remind us that leadership doesn't only reside in the Oval Office, it extends to those who support and shape the presidency from behind the scenes. Ever wondered how presidents are remembered after their time in office? Presidential libraries serve as incredible repositories of history, preserving their records, speeches, and personal items. The Franklin D. Roosevelt Library houses exhibits on the Great Depression and World War II, while the Kennedy Library in Boston showcases his leadership during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Then there are iconic monuments, like the Lincoln Memorial, where generations have gathered to honor civil rights, or Mount Rushmore, where the faces of 4 presidents are immortalized in stone. These sites not only celebrate their legacies, but also connect us to pivotal moments in history. Presidents have often been portrayed in pop culture, shaping how we view their legacies. Abraham Lincoln has been depicted in countless movies, with performances that highlight his wisdom and determination during the Civil War. Ronald Reagan, a former actor, brought Hollywood flair to the White House, even earning the nickname the Great Communicator. Barack Obama appeared in comedy sketches and late-night shows, making him a relatable figure for younger audiences. And then there's Teddy Roosevelt, whose adventurous spirit inspired characters like the one in the movie Night at the Museum. These portrayals keep their stories alive and make history accessible to new generations. U.S. presidents have often been at the forefront of embracing new technology. Franklin D. Roosevelt used the radio for his fireside chats, revolutionizing how leaders communicated with the public. John F. Kennedy leveraged television during the first-ever televised presidential debate, which helped him secure a victory over Richard Nixon. Barack Obama was the first president to extensively use social media, reaching millions directly through platforms like Twitter. And let's not forget how advances in technology, from the telegraph to Air Force One, transformed how presidents govern and connect with the American people. Franklin D. Roosevelt's fireside chats brought comfort and reassurance to millions of Americans during some of the nation's darkest days. Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation changed the course of history, marking a pivotal moment in the fight for equality. John F. Kennedy's challenge to land a man on the moon inspired a generation and propelled the U.S. to new heights in space exploration. From wrestling champions to raccoon enthusiasts, U.S. presidents have led extraordinary lives both in and out of office. Their unique quirks and monumental achievements remind us that they're not just leaders, but human beings with fascinating stories. So, which of these facts surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below.